Look at this environment. What do you see? What does make it feel? What comes to your mind when you look at this? Pleasure or fascination? Who has not lost themselves in contemplation of the nature in Red Dead Redemption 2, or spent time in the photo mode of Ghost of Tsushima trying to capture the best landscape, or use it during combat because the pose look cool, or admire the majestic waterfalls of Death Stranding? The examples are many. Academic studies have found that beautiful landscape, especially those related to nature, improve our cognition and creative problem solving, as well as enhance our mental health by bringing satisfaction. I'm FF Psych, and this reflection on how video games can serve as a profound form of art is subject of this psychological analysis, and I invite you to explore how deep the rabbit hole goes. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. First, we need to understand what art is. For Aristotle, art will serve to provoke catharsis, that is, the release of emotions. It is that feeling of relief when experiencing or carrying out something. Therefore, art has an educational and moral value, helping individuals to understand and process their own emotions. An easy example to understand is Red Dead Redemption 2, where the narrative follows the structure of Greek tragedy, focusing on the downfall of a protagonist, who, through an error, generates conflicts, catastrophe, and ultimately catharsis. In this case, Arthur Morgan was part of the Fear of Wonderland gang in 1899, but due to the intervention of fate, the major haste on a ferry in Blackwater goes wrong and they must start over, which initiates a roller coaster of emotions, betrayals, successes, failure, and ultimately the recognition of his wrongdoings, a search for redemption and an attempt to change destiny for at least the lesser evil. The conflict is not only Arthur's, but of the whole gang, especially the leader Dutch van der Linde, who clings to an era of glory that no longer exists. Thus, we have here a description of art as a narrative. Now, art as something aesthetic brings Kant explanation, which goes in opposite direction. He argues that art is a disinterested pleasure. It does not need to be bound to a moral lesson or utilitarian teaching. This function of art is contemplation and subjective imagination, concerns form. In this case, Ghost of Tsushima enchants us with this beautiful landscape simply for being beautiful. The gameplay and the game structure follow not only the Kantian nonchalance, but also join Japanese performance. The choreography of the fights, the haikus, the shrines hidden in the forests and mountains, which focus on the execution of form itself. Japanese aesthetics value kata, which is a form of model that structures action. In martial arts, dance, or theater, perform is the disciplined repetition of form, not individual expression. This form is not the end to itself, but a necessary pathway. True individual expression is seen as the flowing of deep understanding that can only grow on this cultivated ground. Kata, your artistic disciplines are the integrated path for ethical and spiritual development, not just technical skill. However, from the second art onward, the setting subtly shifts and becomes crucial to the narrative. The coast landscape is no longer present. The atmosphere was blue and sunny, now takes on shades of grey. The once vibrant green vegetation that has become decadent. The consequence of the Mongol invasion grew increasingly evident, and Kotokun's rage is protected on the environment itself. Not only that, but also Jin Sakai's own morality and his sense of honor and justice become even more clouded. The art direction distances itself on a Kantian vision and moves toward a more utilitarian form of art. It is of the surrounding scenery where a reflection of Jin Sakai's mind. In the first act, his principles and hope remain firm even after the disastrous defeat on the beach. Jin Sakai believed that saving his uncle would be enough to save the island of Tsushima. Gradually, however, the pillars that once sustained his life begin to crumble, just as the world around him does. Personally, Ghost of Tsushima has the most beautiful art direction I have ever played. In the 70 hours of gameplay, I admire every detail, every side stroke, every falling leaf, and every footprint in the snow. There's beauty even in destruction and desolated part, as well as in scenes that seems like paradise. There's a hint of Nietzsche in Jin Sakai's journey. After the devastating defeat that killed his comrades and imprisoned his uncle, Jin begins to question the ethics, tradition, and samurai values that shaped him. It is through the thief Yuna that he discovers another path, not one of dishonor, but a freedom to act outside the old codes. In this conflict between obedience to his uncle and Yuna's pragmatism, something resembling the Obermensch is born, a man who abandons inherited values and creates his own principle to confront chaos and save Tsushima, taking on the mantle of the ghost. It's an affirmation of life and a refusal to surrender to death. The point I want to make here is how much video games are a new form of art. They unite both philosophy and neuroscience. It is a various traditional ways of making art are integrated into one. However, games will bring a new form that is unique to them: interaction. For example, in a movie, I cannot explore every corner of the set. Even though a movie is a form of art that integrates traditional form, I remain confined to the camera's perspective and frequently responsibility to where the protagonist goes. In games such as The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, we are placed in a vast world. We are free to create almost anything and go to wherever we wish. The game rewards exploration through its beautiful environment and puzzles, and by offering rewards to distinctive outfits or powerful swords that eventually breaks us in a vicious loop. Although it gives us a sense of purpose, we really feel like adventurers exploring a brave new world. When we are in a game, when we are free to explore and we find something new that pleases, our brain releases dopamine associated with aesthetic pleasure, motivation, and creativity, and activates dopaminergic areas such as the ventral tegmental area and the nucleus accumbens and the ventral medial prefrontal cortex, signaling that something new and valuable as we learn and reinforcing that behavior. There are also noradrenaline related to attention and arousal during artistic web observation, which would explain the satisfaction we explore in new places and facing challenges like a 16th century explorer in open world games. Even so, does not fully explain why we like art. To help with this test, researchers at the University of Vienna in 2017 proposed a theory based on empirical studies of how different people react to art. The Vienna Integrated Model of top-down and bottom process in art perception. VIMAP states that when viewing a work of art, our mind interprets it in two ways. The bottom one corresponds to what we see directly, such as colors, shapes, sounds, and texture. The top-down relies on our prior knowledge, such as cultural background, personality, memories, emotions, and expectations. Speaking of expectation, it has a strong influence on our experience with art. For example, if we are going to a museum, we are already predisposed to new experience and respond positively to surprises and challenges, where in everyday life we pretend to be more pragmatic. Contemplating a work of art alone rather than in a group encourages introspection and leads to greater engagement. Being open to new experience allows us to delve deeper into appreciation of the work. In other words, our personality and past experience plays a crucial role in whether we find something pleasing or not. Take Death Stranding as an example. Many people do not like it from the first trailers, but many love it. What explains those who did not like the game is discrepancy, strangeness, and negativity that it causes. At first glance, it's not a game that can be easily classified. It's threatening in the sense that it goes against the common sense and the familiar. It takes us out of comfort zone and it's not possible to fully understand or control what we feel. We can conflict with the ideals of many people. That causes a discrepancy. However, many reacted differently and love the game at the first sign, open to this challenging experience and strive for cognitive mastery. That is, when what you see is what expected, united with all information and a meaning is formed, producing responses even physical like a smile, associations, and evaluations. Then cognitive mastery is reached. If the process is interrupted, discrepancy remains. Returning to the VIMAP article, the researchers describe 5 outcomes that may arise when you contemplate a work of art. In the video game, Death Stranding provides a useful lane through which to understand them. Outcome is something enjoyable but not relevant to you that we forget in a moment. Appreciation of the negative occurs when something causes comfort but can also be appreciated from a certain distance. Harmony and tranquility are reached when you connected with the work. I experienced that during long walks while contemplating the landscape. I also felt it with Ghost of Tsushima, a highly harmonious game. The fatal outcome is denial, abandoning the game when something that could be relevant to you causes discrepancy, leading to strategies that reduce the work importance by blaming the art, the artist, or the context. And finally, we have transformation. Initially, the work causes discomfort, but you realize it can be meaningful and important to you, so your coping capacity increases. You adjust and change your thinking to understanding and eventually reach harmony. Now the outcomes in cognitive mastery combine because what we dictate how we feel is how we relate to superficiality into the context and emotion. For example, if there is low superficiality and a high connection to the work, we reach the third outcome, harmony, and reformulate thought and associations. It is interesting that to achieve transformation, we must go through negativity, deal with it, and finally reach the fifth outcome. Therefore, bad art is not that we cause disgust or astonishment, but what provokes indifference, which you soon forget. In essence, to gain the most from games, it is good to keep an open mind to the experience and be willing to encounter the unknown. When games are made with quality, they can be considered works of art. Swanvik explained this very well in his speech at the Game Awards 2024, when he said that a good game is made above all with love, not preoccupied with profit, not seeking to exploit the player's money, but rather making a game that the creators themselves would like to play and enjoy. Art is the apex of what a human being can do. As Nietzsche would say, it must above all and in the first place beautify life, make us bearable to ourselves, and if possible, pleasant to one another. Through this, we create new values that transcend reality. It's a way to stand against life adversity and say yes to life. Freud in the text. The claims of psychoanalysis scientific interest states that art is a reality that is conventionally accepted, in which, thanks to artistic illusions, symbols, and substitutes, are capable of provoking real emotions. Every fantasy in this sense is the imaginative fulfillment of a desire. It gives form to what is otherwise repressed or forbidden within us. Art allows us to be exposed to fantasy that would otherwise be unacceptable or at least unpleasant. In a sense, art offers substitute satisfaction. Through games, both developers and players can satisfy their fantasies in a healthy and functional way. Fantasy has a cathartic function. Instead of directing violence towards self or towards another person, we sublimate this desire in artistic production, whether by writing, creating games, painting a picture, sculpting, producing a 3D model, or through many other forms. I also take this opportunity to oppose the use of generative AI, particularly image producing systems, because they rob us of the possibility of fully satisfying our desires and express ourselves. Every stroke and every narrative detail carries something of the author identity. For example, GTA 4 is dark and pessimistic because it reflects a difficult moment in the personal story of Dan Houser, co-founder of Rockstar. It becomes clear that the game's quality is only possible thanks to the author's personal involvement in the work. When personal engagement and deeper reflection are missing, the works become dull, shallow, and notably flat, reflecting the first outcome of the VIMAP model, where the artistic experience remains superficial and untransformed. Games can invoke a desire in us and allow its fulfillment. Red Dead Redemption, for example, offers the possibility of experiencing the fantasy of being a cowboy, taking part in shootouts, committing various crimes, and bathing in blood, or even try to reach redemption and do the right thing while hunting animals, criminals, and exploring nature. Therefore, my advice is not that your artistic self remain reading or suffocate. You should embrace it. Today, there are many ways to create art and express yourself. That is all, everyone. Thank you for following along. Remember to leave your like, suggestion, and subscription to the channel, and may the Almighty God bless you all.